Let's turn our attention now to Azerbaijan. Well, this year has been a masterclass in human destruction, the UN Secretary General has said, as he reflected on extreme weather and record temperatures around the world, fueled by climate breakdown. Antonio Guterres was addressing scores of world leaders and high-ranking government officials from nearly 200 countries gathered in Baku in Azerbaijan for the Cop29 UN Climate Summit, when he painted a stark portrait of the consequences of climate breakdown that had arisen in months. For further clarity, we have with us climate change expert Seth Warren Rose, live from Hanoi, Vietnam. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the World 24/7. Experts say worsening climate impacts will put inflation on steroids. But as the host, Azerbaijan, has said, they will strongly advocate for green transition. But the caveat they've added is, at the same time, they must be realistic. Where does this really leave us, sir?
Well, I listened to the Secretary General's speech, and I found him to be overly optimistic. I understand that's his position as Secretary General. He has to encourage the executives that he was speaking with to do more. But, although I think he cited 80% of the global population is looking for more action on climate change. If you look at what's really going on in the world, if you look at the election of Donald Trump just recently, he's pulling out, or had during his previous administration pulled out a lot of the climate incentives, and that the U.S. had been moving in that direction. So I think that it doesn't bode well. The idea that he said we're looking to still approach a 1.5 degrees Celsius, and that is the goal that has been UN's goal for many years. It doesn't look like we're going to get there. So I suspect that I would think that we need to do more, and the answer is really pretty simple. It's been the same answer for many years, and that is we need to have a global tax on carbon. I am encouraged because India, as a democracy, is more likely to encourage the moving in the right direction. I think a lot of manufacturing is still going to be in India, so I am encouraged by that. But without a price on carbon, the world is just not going to move in the right direction. If you look at what's going on with artificial intelligence, the amount of energy that they're using, that is going to, that's just competing with what the efforts that we're making now. I'm a big fan of artificial intelligence because it's going to come up with new ideas that we don't have currently. But overall, I think I'm not encouraged.
Right. In fact, many experts and climate change watchers have said that they aren't impressed so far by the agenda in Baku. A global tax on carbon is the need of the hour. Now, although leaders like the UK's Keir Starmer, Barbados' Mia Mottley, and Turkey's Erdogan have addressed the summit, the fact, sir, that the heads of government of most of the world's biggest economies have stayed away, what signal would you say this sends to the world, especially the global south?
Well, I think that the global south obviously going to be paying the highest price, which is quite unfortunate. And I remember being in Kenya. It might have been 20 years ago. I was in there for a meeting, and at that time, the cost of rice had increased as an American, some small amount. But to the people in Kenya, it was a huge, significant increase. And so your problem is that the folks that are really running the global economy, like the US, they are not going to notice these relatively small increases in things like increased price on rice, whereas an American consumer might see it small. The majority of the world is going to be devastated by the things that climate change is bringing.
Meanwhile, some countries like Papua New Guinea have actually pulled out of COP, saying it's a total waste of time. What do you have to say to the critics who argue that UN climate summits have produced no results?
Well, it has produced results. It just hasn't produced. I would make the argument that it has done some good. And imagine if there was no global summit on climate at all, we'd be in much worse shape. I don't think we can don't think we can avoid getting to where what is probably more likely to be what's called a 2-degree scenario. We're certainly looks like we're heading in that direction, which will be devastating. I mean, I just want to make sure that people understand we're talking about floods and fires and food shortages,
Natural
droughts, lack
hazards.
of. I mean, we're talking about climate refugees, and look at the U.S. is now pushing people that are coming to the U.S. We're now pushing them away at the very moment that we need to open our doors and help people around the world do more. So I just it's I understand their frustration, but a little bit is better than nothing.
Absolutely. In fact, politics, economics, and the climate are fatally entwined, as we know. Governments may be feeling the consequences of the worst inflation for decades, but far more serious consequences are in store, as you are highlighting. Thank you so much, Seth, for joining us on The World 24/7.